Welcome to the Pitcher Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo, J Gilbo 11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J Clay. Taking a look at pitching on FanDuel and DraftKings tonight. And overall, I mean, you got honorable mentions up top as far as names go, but some guys that just really aren't in the perfect spots. But obviously, kind of a heavier GPP night as far as pitching goes.
Yeah, I definitely say we're leaning towards GPPs. There are some decent options. They're just not in the pristine matchups. It's not, Kershaw against the Braves or anything like that. I mean, Bumgarner does have a nice matchup, but other than him, you kind of start to go down the line and things get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely. And you look at the Brewers and Nationals, first one here. Zach Davies versus Gio Gonzalez, 8.5 over under. Washington minus 161 favorites. And Gio's kind of one of those guys who is in play for a consideration of GPPs. His price tag is certainly cheap enough for me to consider him. I like him, around those names there. And you look at this Brewers team, I mean, yes, they have a lot of right-handed bats and they can get to you, but they also really haven't shown quite the strong numbers against lefties this year. I mean, 24th in WOBA, 24% strikeout rate. So, potential's there, but I do think Gio is a decent GPP option.
Again, I think you mentioned both the upside and the downside pretty well there. Obviously, Gio does have nice strikeout upside against the Brewers, but at the same time, some of those righties, especially like Braun and Lucroy, can definitely get to him, or even a Chris Carter, if he's not striking out every at bat today. So, you're definitely a little worried about that. But again, 7,700. He doesn't need to throw a perfect game to sort of hit value here on DK. So I do think he's in play for tournaments, and his price isn't that bad on FanDuel either. So tournament one-off, but obviously you understand the downside there.
Yeah, definitely. And Davies on the other side, on a full slate, not really looking at him. I don't think he'll have a bad start, but I'm also not thinking it's going to be good enough for any sort of value for your lineups.
Right.
Next one here, you got the Braves and Phillies, and Fultonowitz and Eflin going on 8.5 over under here. And this is a series where it's always intriguing because it's two of the worst offenses and probably two of the worst, starting pitchers. So I'm actually going to take the bats in this game. I think they actually put together some runs as far as both sides of things go. So for me, it's a situation where you can just kind of stay away from.
Yeah, I don't know about everyone else, but on full slates, I think one of the first things I do is going to see, all right, who's pitching versus the Braves, who's pitching versus the Phillies, and then sort of breaking it down that way and then going and searching other ways. But I mean, it's just kind of like a gross mismatch of things. So yeah, I think you're right. I think we target some of the bats in this game here, because I don't know how long or how well these pitchers are going to be able to sort of even hold off these weak offenses.
Yeah, I mean, Fultonowitz has been better at home, but for me, I just don't think there's enough upside there. And I mean, I kind of like some of those Phillies guys. I mean, there's some popular names like Odubel Herrera or Cameron Rupp that you can kind of take shots at.
Yeah, and this might be a night to sort of go Odubel Herrera, lefty versus righty, and obviously he's expensive, but I think this could be a decent night for it to pay off.
Yeah, definitely. And you look at Eflin, he hasn't really been solid either. Going to face a ton of lefties in that lineup, and guys like Freddie Freeman been crushing of late. So, I don't necessarily hate some of those Braves bats either.
Yeah, you look at the top of that lineup and you get pretty worried about Eflin in terms of sort of getting through that two times. So even if he does get through it the first time, you definitely worry about the second time around as well.
Yeah, definitely. And next one here at the Royals and Blue Jays, Chris Young versus R.A. Dickey, 9.5 over under, Toronto minus 170 favorites. And this is just kind of a quick stay away situation.
Yeah. We were talking and before the show, and you were mentioning how the Blue Jays are going to be super chalky, but Young actually hasn't been horrible against righties this year. It's been the lefties that get to him. So that's something to keep in mind, but we'll talk about that more on the sort of hitter based pods there. But yeah, obviously you're not playing Chris Young or Dickey here.
No, definitely not. And glossing over that one, heading into Rangers and Red Sox, another high total of over under 9, Boston minus 183 favorites. And AJ Griffin, I mean, he's another guy who hasn't really pitched bad this year. I'm not using him tonight, but I think he kind of warrants that I'm a little bit down on the Red Sox as far as how I usually am. So I think both these games here. I mean, um, I know they're high totals, but I wouldn't actually be surprised to see a little bit of a lower outcome than what Vegas kind of projects there.
Yeah, and obviously Prince Fielder is sort of neutralized against Price tonight, but on most nights I am kind of worried about them now that Price isn't just or now that Fielder isn't just striking out every time. So tonight, 9,500 is a little expensive for Price, but I could actually see him paying that off.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are definitely going to be off of him, just be given the
Yeah,
last start that he made, and you
right.
look at this Rangers offense, and you know, against lefties, they do have a decent rate. I mean, seventh in WOBA. They don't strike out a ton, but as you mentioned, I mean, the price tag's pretty cheap, and Price is a guy who can rack up strikeouts if he's on. I think he's a deeper
Right.
GPP play than usual.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the matchup, but obviously, I think a shift to Fenway compared to his last start does bode well for him.
And yeah, obviously he got smashed versus the Rangers last time, but you look at the three starts surrounding that. I mean, 11 Ks, 7 Ks, 10 strikeouts. He's been giving up a lot of hits, but the strikeouts have been there. And as we see with sort of the Chris Archers of the world, as long as that strikeout total is there, you're pretty much fine. So I mean, he's obviously, based on how he's done this year, he's going to give up a few runs, and maybe even a few home runs. But if he does get into that 7, 8, 9 K range, which I think is possible, I think you're all set at that price. So, yeah, deeper GPP play.
Yeah, definitely. And he's a guy who works deep into games. I mean, unless he just gets completely shelled. But he's a guy we've seen in the past go 3 to 4 earned, but he goes 7, 8 innings still and does get those strikeouts, which is fine at that price tag.
Right.
Tigers and Indians here, Anibal Sanchez, Carlos Carrasco, and Indians, big favorites here, -160, over-under of 8. Carrasco obviously been pitching, lights
Yes.
out. I mean, back-to-back 40-plus DK starts, 21 strikeouts over the last two outings. You just look at him, I mean, he's been quality since coming back from the DL. 11.5, not a bad price tag. I mean, obviously this Tigers offense is, going to carry some names to it, but I don't know. I mean, I like him quite a bit here.
Yeah, that last game out was against the Blue Jays. I mean, you were expecting him to be doing well because he's pitched well for most of the season. But 14 Ks, I didn't watch that, but I went back after and checked the box score. I was like 14 Ks. Wow. So that was a shocker for me. Obviously, you don't see that type of production again today, but I mean, 8 to 10 strikeouts seems pretty reasonable. Righty on righty for a lot of the best hitters in this matchup here. So I actually do like him quite a bit, even at his extended price.
Yeah, and you look, I mean, 25% strikeout rate this year, 12% swinging strike rate. So been solid. And you look at this Tigers offense that, I mean, they do rank in the top 10 in WOBA against righties, but 22.4% strikeout rate. We've seen Carrasco be pretty solid against him or against these guys before. He is one of those guys who, because of kind of the slate and everyone around him, is borderline cash game playable.
Right.
For me, I mean, on FanDuel, I still rather lean Bumgarner. I think a little bit more, just a little bit easier matchup, a little better ballpark, big favorite there. So I still don't have any problem with either of them there, but I think Bumgarner's kind of the play over him on FanDuel, while both of them are definitely, in consideration for top options on DK.
Yeah, and again, it's reflected in the Vegas line, but Anibal Sanchez, that could be a decent indicator of some strong run support for Carrasco. So getting that win, definitely in play there.
Yeah, definitely. And Marlins and Mets, this next one here, two lefties, Wang and Chen versus Steven Matz, and over-under of 8. And Matz really still hasn't proven to me that he's worth taking, given his issue. And I think eventually he's got to be shut down.
Yeah.
Four home runs in the last 3 starts allowed, 11 runs. So for me, it's just a stay away situation. And Miami's been pretty tough, so it's kind of an easy fade there.
Easy fade, unfortunately. I actually became sort of a pretty big Mats fan in the middle last month's stretch where he was just pretty much rock solid every game, pretty much a cash option. Something's up. And you can't just keep going back to the well. once something's up. So even at a reduced price, I just don't think he's in play. And these Mets, they've been hitting pretty well too. So I'm not sure I'm targeting Chen either. I'm worried about Cespedes and sort of some of the righties in that lineup.
Yeah, I am too. And I mean, Chen's obviously super cheap, 5,600.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some reasonable strikeout upside there. You just look at the Mets. I mean, 21st in WOBA, 25.6% strikeout rate. Obviously, it's a deep GPP option because, as you mentioned, the righties could get to him there. And you're just looking at Chen. I mean, 1.57 home runs per nine. So that's always been the issue with him. So for me, yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's a stay away situation. But I think if you are paying down, he's probably the logical strikeout upside type guy. But obviously, a much deeper GPP play than you want. I mean, through the depths of space, GPP.
Well, I mean, again, if you're doing 10 and you want to throw Bumgarner in and get an expensive stack in there, that might be an interesting way to sort of think your way through it. So yeah, I do agree there is some upside there.
Yeah, definitely. Angels and Rays, Tim Lincecum versus Jake Odorizzi, 8.5 over under. And I've kind of seen Lincecum tossed out as a GPP play. I've seen a little bit of buzz around him. I mean, obviously, been good in that first start. Was horrible the last two. The strikeout rate or the swing strike rate has been decent, but he hasn't really been able to finish off hitters, which has been his thing because he does have a swing strike rate near 12, but the K percentage of 17% doesn't really indicate that he can finish the job. And obviously, these Rays bats do strike out quite a bit against right-handed pitching. I mean, 25% this season. And one thing I mentioned is in the stacking article is that the Rays rank bottom 5 in WOBA, but they're a top 10 ISO team against right-handed pitching, so they are a little bit more robust. And Lincecum, for me, I kind of like stacking against him more than I do actually taking him here.
I totally agree with that. These Rays have been pretty fun for a few weeks now, especially with price considered. So definitely guys I'm looking at here. Obviously Brad Miller gets a big bump because he's actually playing against righties. And obviously like Logan Morrison as well, batting cleanup at 3,500. So I'm with you. I'm definitely targeting Rays tonight instead of sort of going the Lincecum route. That just seems like a dangerous game to me.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as Jake Odorizzi goes, I mean, I don't actually mind him here. I mean, he's really cheap on DK, 6,500. And you just look at this Angels offense and Odorizzi. I mean, Odorizzi is a guy who's been way better at home this year. The strikeout rate's been up. He's been much more consistent there. 6,500 is not a bad price tag. I mean, I know the Angels don't possess a ton of strikeout upside because one, they're just not that type of team, but they're not a powerful offense either. Middle of the road, 16th in WOBA, but they don't have a strong ISO. So I could see Jake Odorizzi being kind of that cheap SP2 option there.
Yeah, and his 2016 splits are kind of weak because he started off the season with some pretty rough starts. But I mean, other than that blip against the Orioles, he's been pretty solid lately. So as we say, always worried about Trout, but beyond that, I actually do think he has a decent shot at getting through this lineup tonight.
Yeah, I do too, and I think he is a decent favorite. I mean, minus 152, I think the win's there. I'm not necessarily looking at him on FanDuel. At his price tag, 8,300 is a little higher than I would like. I think I want some more upside as far as strikeouts go. So I don't mind Odorizzi. I think he is a cash game playable SP2 on DK.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So moving on to the Pirates and the Cardinals, and it's Mike Leake versus Brault there, an 8.5 over under. Cardinals minus 138 favorites here, and in this one, stay away situation. I'm never a big fan of Leake. 8.5 over under is pretty big for Cardinals Pirates game, and it's a stay away.
You can't lie that you looked though. You looked and you said,
nah.
Oh, he didn't even do that. Okay, well I did. Just because it's 5,800. But yeah, ultimately, I don't think you go at either of these. Obviously, Brault not even on DK. So at the end of the day, I just don't think, even though the Pirates have struggled, they kind of broke out a little bit the other day. I'm not really going at them.
I don't think we can on this slate. I mean, I know League is cheap, but I think you kind of like those better options around him as far as, an Odorizzi.
Right. We just talked about Odorizzi.
Like
Yeah.
I rather kind of roll those dice with a little bit more upside against. I know Pirates team really hasn't been that great this year. So I mean, I can see the logic of tossing out a leak and hoping to get a win, but he doesn't really offer any upside for me.
No, I'm with you.
Next one here, you got the Yankees and the White Sox. Masahiro Tanaka, Carlos Rodon, 8.5 over under. Yankees minus 118 favorites, and 8.5 over under here for a game that features two offenses that have been fairly quiet for most of the season. Tanaka's a guy who obviously carries some risk, but you look at the matchup and it is a decent one. White Sox 23rd in WOBA, 21.3% strikeout rate, but Tanaka's K percentage really hasn't been great this year.
No, and even in the games he sort of pitched later into, you're sort of seeing him stick around that 4, 3, 5 strikeout type performances, which really isn't doing it for you. And obviously, if he gives up 2 or 3 runs, that really sort of negates any type of strong outing. So he's a decent option. I just worry about, even though they haven't done well this year, I do worry about some of the Adam Eatons of the world against Tanaka tonight. But I mean, I do like it. It's just with the price considered, some of the cheaper guys on the slate, it's sort of tough to go into a cash type of SP2 format with Tanaka there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I do think his outcome tonight could be reproduced by guys cheaper. So that's where I'm kind of heading. I kind of rather take my shots down low, and really he's not that far off from just paying up for Carrasco, who's been much more solid.
Yeah.
And on FanDuel, I don't see any real worth from him. I mean, 9K, he's priced around a lot of other guys that I either just bump up or I just kind of spin down. So, yeah, I mean, I can't see myself really using him, and same thing goes with Rodon. I mean, I don't mind him, as an option just because the Yankees aren't good against lefties. 27th in WOBA, really low ISO, which is why I'm kind of surprised to see a 8.5 over under here.
Yeah, I would describe Tanaka's matchup tonight as like, when you're cooking pasta and you're really hungry and you put the water on and you like check every 3 minutes and it's still not warm yet. It's like not warm enough yet. That's what it is. You just can't put the pasta in yet. It's just not warm enough. So that's how I feel about Tanaka tonight.
What you're saying is, yeah, it's just, maybe you skip that. Maybe you go to a different dinner.
Yeah. No. You gotta see it through. But Tanaka's at that stage where you just, yeah. Okay. Maybe you just buy takeout instead. Yeah. You just throw the water away.
He's in Twins the next one here. Sean Manaea versus Tommy Malone, 9.5 over under. Oakland minus 110 favorites. A lot of rain projected for this game, so I think obviously pitchers would be taken off the board here just for weather concerns alone, but also just because these two teams have a lot of righties that can get to lefties, and they're really just two bad arms in general. So I think this is just kind of an easy stay away situation.
Yeah, not one to really look at. I'm afraid of Brian Dozier at this stage. He's been killing it the last few weeks. So that Twins lineup isn't actually as bad as I want it to be. So I don't think they're a target by any means.
No, definitely. And we're always talking about some of those right-handed bats for Oakland. So Lefty Malone's not really a guy to look at either.
Fegley!
He's on the DL.
Oh.
Mariners and Astros. Taijuan Walker. So that was a big buzzkill for you.
What happened?
I don't know. I just know he's on the DL.
What'd you do to him?
I didn't do anything. I would never do anything to Fegley. Ever.
That's sad. It's a sad moment in our pod history.
I've lost track here. Astros and Mariners, Taijuan Walker versus Dallas Keuchel, Houston minus 152 favorites, 7.5 over under. Looking at Walker, for me, I mean, he's kind of an intriguing option. I mean, I do think there is some strikeout upside there. Obviously, you're just looking at the Astros alone. I mean, big strikeout rate against righties, as always, 24%. But also, there is a big boomer bust factor. But I do think Walker has some strikeout potential and is a risky GPP option, but does have a lot of kind of downside just because he is on the road against an offense that can put up some power numbers.
Yeah, I'm actually more comfortable with him here than sort of the Tanakas of the world, just because you do have that upside. I think he's going to be low owned in tournaments, so I think that's a decent move, especially with the Astro strikeout rate this year.
Yeah, definitely. And you just look, I mean, got off to a rocky start against Houston last time out, but before he was pulled, was pretty solid against him at home. So I think you look here, and I do think you approach with caution, but I do think there is some relatively high upside.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not going to happen most of the time, but he does obviously have that 8 to 10 strikeout upside. So in a decent matchup, not too expensive. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't either. And Keuchel on the other side, I mean, he's a guy who's pitched better, and obviously the price has kind of shown that he's been better of late. But overall, I mean, I just don't feel really comfortable using him. I think 7,600. I'd rather take shots on guys with higher strikeout upside, like a Gio Gonzalez at the price, or even pay down. So for me, Keuchel's just kind of off my radar. He's just been so bland this year that even when he's pitching better, it just doesn't offer enough.
He's got that wheat bread vibe going.
Yeah, he's basically, if you eat oatmeal and it's just plain oatmeal. There's no cinnamon. There's no dinosaur eggs hatching. There's no peaches and cream.
Oh,
Nothing.
oh,
Oatmeal is what
oh, that's terrible. All
it
right,
is.
yeah, no Dallas Keuchel. Yeah,
Solely just for the oatmeal reference, you are completely off of
I
that.
might never play him again.
Padres and Diamondbacks. Next one, Christian Friedrich, Zach Godley there. 9.5 over under. Arizona minus 142 favorites. I think there's a lot of offense here on both sides, and I think it's just kind of a stay away situation.
Definitely a stay away from me on both sides. I do think you like the Diamondbacks as a stacking option tonight, even though they are a little more expensive. And then the Padres aren't necessarily a team you stack against right now, especially against a weaker arm.
No, definitely not. And look at that. That ballpark that's been really friendly for runs and home runs this year. So, yeah, I think it's just a game you kind of look for offense and definitely not for pitching.
Right.
Orioles and Dodgers here. Chris Tillman versus Kenta Maeda. Over under a 7.5. Dodgers minus 151 favorites. And we were talking about this before. I mean, a few starts that Tillman, the regression was coming. We talked about it with that Tampa game. That it could be biting him, and that's where we are now.
Okay, let's not say we. You were on a tirade against Chris Tillman, and I was like, okay. And then it was like, yeah, okay, it happened. I'm not going to take credit for that one. That was your call.
Okay, well, I was just trying to throw you a bone. Yeah, I mean, the Tillman regression was coming. It's kind of happened. I'm not necessarily loading up on Dodgers, but I'm just saying he's not a guy who I'm looking to target tonight.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, especially the cracks have started to show. So while you do love that win-loss total, certainly not a guy you're targeting, especially against some strong lefties like Corey Seager.
Yeah, definitely not. And I think you're looking here. I mean, I think Maeda is actually a reasonable GPP option. I mean, obviously it's high risk. Anyone against the Orioles is going to be high risk, but I like what Maeda brings to the table. I mean, he's a guy who doesn't really have a big blow factor. 24% strikeout rate this year. Doesn't walk too many guys. Is keeping the hard ball rate down. So obviously, you look at Baltimore. I mean, yeah, they're ranked number 2 against righties in the league, so obviously that's going to be scary. But they also lose the DH, 22.3% strikeout rate. So I think there's a couple reasons to like Maeda, but obviously the floor is low against the Baltimore team.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be diving in with you on this one, but in terms of Vegas and all that, it's definitely pointing pretty strong in the Maeda direction. So I definitely can't knock it as a tournament play.
Yeah. I mean, that's all it is, and it's obviously deep too. I think most of these guys obviously carry some risk, and that's why we talked about, at the beginning that this is kind of a GPP night for a lot of these guys. So.
Yeah, and if you are going cash, are you looking at Bumgarner, Carrasco? Obviously, we haven't talked about Bumgarner yet, but is that the direction you're going, or are you looking at someone else?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they relatively have the highest floors on the slate, even with the matchup for Carrasco. Unless I figure out that I like someone a little bit more. I mean, obviously, I don't think Odorizzi's a bad SP2 option, so If I do want to get those bats in, which you can, I don't mind a Bumgarner or Odorizzi kind of direction.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's just nice that he's not the 13K that I was kind of expecting him to be. But.
I know, at least, but I guess while they don't respect the Rockies in the run total, I mean, I guess somewhere along the line they didn't make him 13K. So, yeah. Hey, whatever.
Yeah, and talking about Bumgarner now, I mean, San Francisco 228 favorites, 6.5 over under. And you look at the Rockies, and you look at them on the road this year, 25th in WOBA, 24% strikeout rate, and we've seen that. I mean, we saw with the Dodgers series, we saw it against Jake Peavy yesterday that they haven't been producing on the road, and it's finally these guys are kind of neutral out there. And you kind of look at this lineup and Carlos Gonzalez, Charlie Blackmon taking out the lefty-lefty matchup. Obviously, Arenado's still a guy to worry about, but Bumgarner's handled this team in the past, and he should handle him tonight.
Yeah, all systems go on the Bumgarner train tonight. Obviously, you mentioned Blackmon, Gonzalez really neutralized by this matchup, and then it's Arenado. So, I mean, if maybe DJ LeMahieu can get on and Arenado can get a homer, maybe you're looking at 2 runs off of Bumgarner. But beyond that, gonna be a rough night for them, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And you just look at Bumgarner. I mean, high strikeout rate, 27% on the season. You just look. I mean, he's a workhorse. He goes deep into games in that spacious ballpark out there. Yeah, I mean, for me, he's number 1 tonight, and it's not really close. I don't think.
We're very far removed from when the Rockies beat up on Matt Cain there, huh?
That was a long time ago. Yeah, when we were outside.
That was a long time ago. They've been really bad on the road for a long time. And I mean, obviously they're not going to be like their home splits, but it's a big deal. So yeah, definitely not touching Rockies tonight.
No, definitely not. And Tyler Chatwood on the other side, making a start against the Giants, hasn't been particularly bad this year. Obviously, on the road, he's been much more solid, 1.25 runs per 9. At home, it's a different story.
Yeah.
He's limited damage against the Giants. Once again, I think we're just talking more so not using him, but also we're not jumping all over Giants bats either.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's wrap things up here with the pitcher nail down. Be sure to check out DailyFantasyCafe.com for all our great tools and content.